Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living White Rock. I'm Reverend Cassandra Rae, and we are an inclusive learning center of practical spirituality. This is a place for your whole heart, and may you find refuge here. May you discover spiritual truth that uplifts and inspires you. And may we all join together in co-creating a loving, vibrant world that works for all. So as we begin our gathering here today, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that I live and work on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish First Nations, including Coquitlam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Stalo nations. So now let us begin our time together grounding into truth and spirit. I invite you to turn within and just recognizing that there is one infinite source of all life everywhere. It is pure love, infinite possibility, divine wisdom. It is the presence and power of the one that lives in, through, and as all. And I recognize that it is living in, through, and as me and everyone present here today, right now. Spirit is manifesting as each one of us. This one life is unfolding as each one of us. And what a miracle it is to remember that this divine power is flowing to each one. And so what I know of this time together is that it is a powerful coming together of truth is expressed in this time, and it amplifies the purpose of each one of us. I know that it lifts each one of us up into this awakened consciousness of connection, of belonging. I know that healing happens here today, that if anything that is weighing on the hearts and mind of anyone present, that there is a lightening, that there is a lift, that in this time, this infinite truth of spirit is brought forward, and there is comfort and peace, clarity, knowing that spirit is guiding each one of us on this journey of becoming, this adventure called life. I give such gratitude, knowing that each one of us is guided and guarded on this infinite life. So with joy and anticipation for what is to come, I release my words into that divine law of mind, knowing that it says yes. I too say yes to this truth, and I step forward into its perfect unfoldment now, letting it be, and so it is. Our live music today is the wonderful and talented Ranj Singh. What a joy it is to get to know him, to be in his presence, to feel his heartfelt love of authentic expression and rock and roll. He is this amazing blend of what he calls Indo-Canadian folk. And while I would have never guessed that's one of my favorite genres of music, it is. Thank you, Ranj, for giving me words to articulate your beauty. So please join me in welcoming Ranj Singh.
Thank you very much. Well, Cassandra, you sure make me blush every time. This is an original song I wrote called Fly Away. It's a song about a reoccurring dream I've had since a child of flying Superman style and taking a friend with me and just seeing the world. Come fly away with me. Come fly so high and far away with me. Leave your worries all behind. Use the theater of your mind and fly away, far away with me. Let's take a ride and defy all reality. We can kiss the sky and see what the eagles see. There's a whole new world to explore. We can open so many doors. Just fly away, far away with me. In the morning you wake up with a smile, and you know it's more than just a dream. Let me wake you up, open all my dreams. Let me take your hand and show you sights you won't believe. 'Cause there's a magic way up here. All your worries will disappear. Just fly away, far away with me. And in the morning you wake up with a smile, you know it's more than just a dream. Fly away, far away with me. Come fly away, high away with me, yeah. Come fly so high, high away with me, yeah. Won't you fly away, far away with me?
And that was a beautiful way for us to enter into the month of May. Welcome to May. How did that happen? This month, we're having a Wholly Holy Uprising. That's the theme of May. And the first part of holy is spelled W-H-O-L-L-Y. And the second part is holy, spelled H-O-L-Y. So we're joining together in a sacred revolution of raising our consciousness so that we as individuals can apply spiritual principles for collective healing. Yes, we're using our spiritual principles so that we can address the everyday issues, concerns, and conditions of the world that we're living in, the world that we're working in, that we walk through. And so our guide this month is this book called Mindful of Race, Transforming Racism from the Inside Out by Ruth King. And this is the perfect resource for a Wholly Holy Uprising. and it aligns brilliantly with our brand new vision and mission. Your leadership team here at CSL White Rock, which includes board members, practitioners, and myself, have been working with Reverend Champion, our Minister of Organizational Development, to determine what Reverend Champion calls our collective noble purpose. Don't you just love that? So over the past 3 months, we've gathered to tune in to what CSL White Rock wants to be now, to proclaim our dream, and to solidify who we are and what we stand for. And I'm excited to announce that our vision is a loving, vibrant world that works for all. And our mission is to create sacred opportunities for personal empowerment and collective transformation through wholehearted experiences of truth and spirit. Oh, it just gives me chills. And a Wholly Holy Uprising is the perfect theme as we claim, co-create, and cultivate a loving, vibrant world that works for all. And oh, what an adventure it is, right? An adventure is both a noun and a verb. So it's an exciting undertaking, and it's also to take a risk or a chance. So here we are on this adventure called life at CSL White Rock, launching into an exciting undertaking where we're taking the chance on a loving, vibrant world that works for all, a very worthy cause. So in this loving, vibrant world that works for all, we see a new reality that calls each one of us to expand our consciousness in ways that move us into inspired action, an action that's based on our unity with the divine and our connection with one another. So if I am one with the divine and you are one with the divine, then we are one with each other. There is no separation. While we are each having our own individual experiences, we are all living in the one consciousness of the infinite. And as we become more aware of our spiritual truth, we're able to look at the circumstances of our lives from a new vantage point. Where we used to blame others, we're now able to take responsibility for our lives and begin to think differently. Where we used to feel hopeless, we're able to see new possibilities. And where we used to focus on the negative or what's missing, we're now able to shift our mind to what we want rather than what we don't want. And once we begin walking this spiritual path with conscious intention, then we begin to do the work of uprooting limiting thoughts and beliefs so that we can exchange them for the ones that inspire and empower us to think bigger about what's possible and to embrace ourselves with love and compassion. We stop putting ourselves down and we start lifting ourselves up with new thoughts. And as we heal, grow, and transform, we begin to move through the world in new ways. We start to feel and see our interconnectedness, our oneness. And where we used to see like that over there is somebody else's problems, we begin to see them as opportunities for healing and a call to action. Where we used to see something as too big for little old me, we now know that spirit demonstrates its healing and creative power through each and every one of us. Miracles don't happen to us. They happen through us. And some pretty powerful miracles are happening through Ruth King, the author of our book of the month, Mindful of Race, Transforming the Race, transforming from the inside out. And so I want to just tell you a little bit about Ruth. I'd like for you to meet Ruth King today. She self-identifies as an elder, a heart activist. You'll learn more about that later. She identifies as an African American with Choctaw roots and a native Californian, currently residing on the unceded territory of the Catawba Indigenous Nations in Charlotte, North Carolina, with her wife, Dr. Barbara Riley, and their dog Bodhi. She's an international teacher in the Insight meditation tradition. Those of you with us live here today got to experience that in our gathering. And she's trained professionally in clinical psychology, organizational development, and diversity consulting. She's the author and creator of multiple books, products, and programs, including the Mindful of Race training program, which blends mindfulness meditation principles with an exploration of our racial conditioning, its impacts, and our potential. She boldly declares that racism is a heart disease and it's curable. Yes, I love this perspective. Talk about a new thought. There's a new thought. Racism is a heart disease and it's curable. This perspective grew out of her very own lived experience, both physically and spiritually. I just want to read you what she says here. At the age of 27, I had open heart surgery for a mitral valve prolapse, a surgical procedure that began a spiritual inquiry into my habits of harm. When introduced to mindfulness meditation years later, I learned how to interrupt the mental war I was inflicting on others and myself. I learned how to relate to distress with more compassion, and I opened to a deeper understanding of my racial conditioning. I discovered that how I thought was core not only to my level of distress, but also to my ability to break habits of harm. Doesn't she sound like she's talking about the science of mind? This past week, I taught a workshop on one of our fundamental teachings, the creative process. Essentially, it's a spiritual idea that, one, we plant seeds of thought, two, into the creative soil of the universe, and three, those seeds unfold into and as our lives. So the seeds of thought are amplified by repetition, turning into beliefs, habits, and patterns that are deeply embedded within our minds and hearts. And if you're planting new seeds, but still experiencing the old ones, then it's time to see if there are old limiting beliefs and ideas hiding out. So we take the time and effort to illuminate the old so that we can release the emotional energy that keeps them stuck inside of us, and so that the new thought can take root and grow into a new experience. This is the work, the spiritual work of our lifetime. And certainly it is an adventure, right? It's risky to look inside oneself and to root out what Ruth King calls habits of harm. But if we want a new experience, we must be willing to do this work. So Dr. Ernest Holmes says in The Science of Mind, when the inner consciousness agrees with the truth, with a capital T, then and not until then, a demonstration takes place. So in other words, when your inner thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and patterns align with what you want, then it begins to show up in your outer experience. This is transforming from the inside out. And so Ruth King's book, Mindful of Race, shows us how to root out old limiting beliefs of race and habits of harm, as well as how to plant new seeds of racial healing and harmony. It's so powerful. And normally I will read the whole book of the month throughout the month, and I address, huge parts of it. This month, this book is so juicy that I am taking it very, very slow. And literally, today's talk is drawn only from the introduction of this book, the introduction only. This is so that we can kind of really delve and deepen into it. One of the numerous mind-blowing ideas in just the introduction, mind you, is that there's a difference between race and racism. There's a difference between race and racism. So let me just read to you another little section here in the introduction. Ruth King says, "My hope is to ignite your imagination and help you discover your voice in the song of racial healing. Together, we'll imagine the possibilities of who we could be and how we could live in this world if every one of us aimed our energy toward awakening, non-harming, generosity, and kinship. A world with race, but without racism. A loving, vibrant world that works for all is a world with race without racism. Together, we collectively cast this vision of a world without race, but with racism." I mean, I said that backwards. Did you catch me? I was making sure you were following. We cast a vision of a world with race, but without racism. And then we do our individual work of aiming our energy toward awakening, non-harming, generosity, and kinship. So let us accept Ruth King's invitation and begin with the awakening. In the introduction of Mindful of Race, King asserts that each of us is a racial being, that each of us belongs to a racial group, and that each one of us has a racial story. So remember the distinction between race and racism. These assertions aren't judgments or accusations or put downs. Being a racial being, belonging to a racial group, and having a racial story is simply part of this human adventure. So your practice this week that I'm inviting you to do is to explore your own experience in the adventure of discovering your voice in the song of racial healing. Are you willing to add your voice to this song of racial healing? So I'm going to give you 3 specific ways that you can delve into this work this week. 1, notice your reaction to this statement. I am a racial being within the human race. Notice any resistance you might have to that statement. What does that resistance reveal? Number 2, explore your racial group. What is your racial group that you belong to? Just take note of any thoughts or feelings around your answer. I encourage you to journal about this. And what is the history of your racial group? Do some research if you're inspired. Get to know your racial group. Think of it simply as an experiment, a discovery, gathering data, and notice what happens in your heart and mind as you're doing that. You might notice that in that exploration, you might find some old limiting ideas that are ready to be uprooted. So finally, Number 3, begin to define your racial story. What is your racial story? When did you first learn about race? How old were you? What happened? How does race impact your sense of self and how you move through the world? And I invite you to reach out to each other on this adventure. Grab a partner, a friend or two, and talk about it, because adventures are definitely better taken together. Some of my favorite memories are road trips taken with friends and family. They will return someday. I just know it. So support one another. Share your stories with one another. Encourage one another. And I want to close today with another quote here from Ruth King. She says, "This book is a call to those who care deeply about racial harmony, people who want to go the distance by making a difference from the inside out. To begin, we must first take a breath and consent to this journey. We must be willing to be diligent in service to our belonging and to this planet that nurtures us. We must be willing to exchange comfort for racial consciousness and to be more curious than critical or dispirited." So today, I'm asking you to choose the adventure of realizing racial harmony from the inside out. When each one of us adds our voice to the song of racial healing, it resonates deep and wide. It calls on a loving, vibrant world that works for all. And that, dear one, begins with you and me and our willingness to take this adventure called life. And while we are absolutely on a holy, holy uprising, I'd say that we're starting with a holy, holy uprooting as we simply check out our experience and stories, delving into the heart. Let us be the cure to the heart disease that is racism. Each one of us makes a difference. You make a difference. And so it is. So we're just going to turn within for prayer treatment. And just taking a moment to breathe into this inner being space where the divine lives, expresses, moves, and has its being. Right in through and as each one of us, this infinite life, this one presence, this one power, it is flowing to everyone, everywhere. And I recognize both the diversity of experience and the oneness that connects us all together, the interconnectedness of life itself. And I just take this moment to accept my own personal power to impact change, to do this work. And as I accept that divine birthright to create through consciousness, through this creative power of thought, I claim for each one here the strength, resilience, the peace, the compassion, and the clarity to contribute to the individual voice to this collective song of racial healing and harmony. I recognize that the truth of this world is racial harmony, each one safe, celebrated, embraced, knowing that the true state of being for each and every precious individual as an expression of the divine is connection and belonging. And so I affirm that each and every structure and institution that we as humans create, that it supports and serves the highest and best for all of us, that it celebrates and recognizes our interconnectedness as spiritual beings having a human experience. I am so grateful for the clarity that comes today, right now, this week. I am so grateful for each and every one of us who's willing to add our voice to that song of racial harmony, knowing that this is the truth and that each one of us are guided perfectly. I release these words into that divine law of mind, which has already says yes, which knows how that this will happen. I live into this mystery, doing what is mine to do, one step at a time. And with a heart filled with hope, with a mind filled with possibility, I step into this perfect unfoldment, letting it be, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Rev Cassandra. Now it's the offertory time, and you can see the slides in front of you. We're on a mission to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. If you're inspired by today's music and message, as well as our weekly and monthly programs, we gratefully receive your gift, your tithe, or your offering today. And you can donate on our website, and you can see that it's on the chat space, and you can see it on the slide here. You can mail us a check, send us an e-transfer. Gifts of all sizes are helpful. Your contributions make all of this possible. Thank you so much. Please join me in declaring our prosperity affirmation. Divine love within blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.